making me weak check. Grind the check. Raise that check and got the light that check. Roll the weed and let me smoke this. You can lay up on my chest. Yeah. Looking like you care what you came for. Tell me what you want. Is it me?
Welcome everybody to the checkup. A soapbox here on the Noun Square, co-hosted by our friend here, the Art of Warren from Netvvork State. Excited to be here, excited to chat about Checks VV and all the awesome creativity and art that has come out of that piece of performative art from Jack Butcher. I'm Tody Hawk. This is the Noun Square. Just going to vibe out for a couple more minutes while we wait for people to join. A couple more guests that we're waiting on as well. Please retweet the room. If you're just joining, helps a lot to remind people of the conversation that's happening here. You can do that by just hitting the little quote bubble there on the bottom right. It might be purple or white. Give us a little quote, tweet, or retweet, and we'll appreciate it very much. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes.
You know I need you. You know he needs me. You know I want you. You know he wants me. You know I need you. You know he needs me. You know I want you. You know he wants me. She making me weak check. Grind the check. Raise the check. I got the light the check. Roll the weed and let me smoke this. Can lay up on my chest. She making me weak check. Grind the check. Raise the check. I got the light the check. Roll the weed and let me smoke this. Can lay up on my chest. In my life. Baby, it's my big black night. I'll be like it, don't take your life. Baby, it will feel alright. You see, baby, got a sign in my life. Baby, it's my big black night. Hoping that it don't take your life. Baby, it will feel alright. Feel alright. Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. It is February the 8th. It's around 1 p.m. here, EST, but it could be morning, it could be afternoon, it could be night, wherever you are. Welcome, regardless. I almost didn't see you down there, right, because you've changed your name to Check 2336. I love it. Giving you an invite here to come up on stage. We're going to be joined by a few people today as we chat about checks. We've got the amazing Tommy Wilson here, pro baseball player plus 3D artist extraordinaire. He's going to talk to us about a piece that he did based on a piece that was based on the checks. That's how it rolls with the checks. And then we've got Ripe, who's now Check 2336 and has been prolifically creating on the checks ecosystem since the very first day almost. And so he's going to talk to us about some of those things. We just lost my friend here and co-host. Hopefully he'll be back in a second. I was just about to introduce him. He must have got nervous. Let's just see. Twitter is weird sometimes. I'm going to give you another invite here, Warren. Hopefully you can come back up. In the meantime, Tommy, just want to invite you to say a couple words about yourself and thank you as well for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I'm Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
I play baseball. I play baseball with the Baltimore Orioles, and I'm a 3D artist here. That's kind of like the gist about me. I don't really know what else to say, but that's my main deal, I guess.
Awesome. Well, maybe we can take a couple steps back and just sort of look at checks.
Hey, Tommy, how are you?
What's happening?
Hey, Warren, can you hear me, Warren?
Just want to say that I was born in Maryland, and my parents used to sell peanuts outside of Camden Yards when Cal Ripken was in his heyday. So, I basically grew up in orange and black. Go O's.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, no, I love how you're able to kind of not just balance being an artist and a ball player, but kind of integrate it together. And I just think that's awesome. I've been following you for a little bit, and keep up the great work, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
Awesome. I think Twitter might
for sure. Now, let's get this thing kicked off. I don't, appreciate Tody.
Yeah, I feel
we did a little chat,
feels like my co-host here can't
about an hour ago, just to kind of get acquainted and whatnot. We never spoke before. Cardinal, how are you, man? It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Hopefully you can hear me, Warren, because I know Toady was just speaking there.
Can
And
you guys hear me all
like
right?
an overlap between. Yeah, I think you can hear everybody, but you can't hear us, if that makes sense.
Can you ask Cardinal? Ask him if he can hear you, just so we can try to figure that out. And he may need to...
Yeah. Can you hear me, Warren?
Testing. Can anybody hear me or no?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I do hear you.
Oh man, these Twitter spaces are just so buggy the past week. Cardinal saying no, he might have to jump off and come back in. I apologize.
Imagine
if he can't hear me. I don't know if you could DM
imagine doing 40 Twitter
but
spaces
yeah,
a week.
if you could hear me right now, like just put a thumbs up or 100. I don't know if Toady could hear me even.
Can everybody give him a thumbs? Can everyone give him a thumbs down?
What the heck?
Ultimately,
all right, I'm gonna jump out and come back in and see if that works.
There we go. It's like we've gone back into like caveman times of communication sometimes with Twitter spaces. It's like, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. You can hear Cardinal, but we can all hear Tommy.
Yeah,
this is great. Twitter spaces.
I've just DM'd him as well, Toady, so he's obviously jumped back out and hopefully he comes back up and all is good. But yeah, that's Twitter for you.
All right. Sorry, guys, about that. This is a normal occurrence sometimes with Twitter spaces. We do about 40 a week here at the Noun Square, so we know a thing or two about getting rugged by Twitter. But what I was trying to say, Tommy, is that, well, here, actually, before I do that, Warren's back, and we're going to hope for the best here. Warren, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just want to confirm that I can hear Cardinal.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
We're in.
Yeah, well, this is good because Twitter's a pretty small independent company, and I'm glad that they're able to get this sorted out for us. Thank you, Elon. Appreciate it. Just rewinding a few minutes. We could hear you actually. By the way, I think most of us could hear you. You just couldn't hear most of us, so it was very confusing. But I appreciated that anecdote about the Orioles. That was really cool. And just to take a step back from Tommy's story about the art, maybe it would be a good idea for you, Warren, to just give a quick refresher on how checks came to be, when that was released, and then maybe we can sort of go from there into the piece that was done by Vincent Van Doe, which leads into Tommy getting involved. So did you want to start with that, Warren?
Yeah, sure. I think the genesis of checks is really like Jack's first successful NFT, which is called NFTs Explained. I'm pretty sure that at the time it had the most bids ever on a foundation piece, and I think that might still be the record today. That was back in early 2021, and I'm gonna pin it up top right now. Some of you might be familiar with it. If you're not, Jack just basically realized, how can I explain what an NFT is, or how could he explain what an NFT is in the simplest form? And it's basically, a JPEG on the left is just a JPEG, but he threw a check to symbolize, the verification of the blockchain. So back in, that was what, March 2021 to now it's February, or on January 3rd he did the checks drop. But yeah, I mean, I think Jack has kind of always been fascinated with like symbols and kind of like how to subvert them, or like kind of explore new ways of like understanding them. So kind of like integrating Damien Hirst's art and ideas, and this whole Twitter blue thing that has kind of like gone crazy over the past 6 months. It's like it was just a perfect storm to kind of tell this story through NFTs and art. And yeah, like I minted 3 pieces, just kind of like, I think that was a little proximity bias to like being in the VV Discord for like 3 years straight, saying GM every single day, kind of like a little too close to the butcher. So when you're a little too close to the butcher, it's like you forget how prime the prime rib is, and like you forget that this is like Michelin star Wagyu, and because you're eating it every single day,
It happens to the best of
so
us.
yeah, but yeah, just mad props to like that it started off as $8, and it was really just Jack just trying to make a point and kind of open up a can of worms, which has obviously happened.
For sure. And it was set at $8 because Twitter verification is $8 in the US, but here in Canada we actually got a discount because our verification is $12 here. So for us it was actually a discount to buy the checks NFT. That's why I bought 5 of them. I was like, this is cheaper than Twitter verification. That's a bad Canadian joke. Sorry.
No, that's all good. It's just I get in the habit of like muting myself, and I have to,
That's a good habit to be in. I can't mute myself as much as I should, because then I forget to unmute myself, and that's even worse. When you're like going into as the host, you're going into a big line of questioning, and then everyone's like, "Is anybody there?" So we take the lesser of two evils sometimes. So after Chex was introduced, you said that was the 2nd of February. So it was a few days later that Vincent Van Dough created a Pepe check, and it was a hit in and of itself. I think, I haven't checked recently, but I think it was it 230,000 mints, Cardinal, on that one?
I think it was around that. I think once it gets over 200,000, we just say like 200K plus.
It was a lot.
200 and gravy, yeah.
Yeah.
And someone even posted, I remember a tweet where they broke down that VVD had made more off the mint than Jack had off of the original checks up to that date, which is kind of a crazy stat also. But interestingly, so I mean, Pepe is obviously an OG meme mixed with the new Chex meme. It resonated with folks. So I'd love to ask Tommy, when you saw that, what inspired you to make your own art piece based on that?
Yeah, I saw that piece from VVD, and I was like, dang it, like that was genius. Like I should have thought of that, but it actually stemmed from a piece I did earlier in 2020. I don't know if anybody here has seen it, but I did a fake rare that was like it was a Pepe, but he was like, looked like a QQL. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but it was a very similar kind of piece to the notable Pepe one that I did. So it was kind of a similar idea, kind of like another derivative of a derivative, I guess. And I don't know, yeah, I just really enjoy making that kind of work. And I just kind of like, I saw the piece from VVD, like as I was like on my way home from something, and like instantly thought of the idea. So I just ran home, and then was on the computer for a few hours, whipped it up, and that was it.
That's really cool. As soon as I saw your piece, I had to mint it. And there was a lot of derivatives that sort of came from that Pepe piece, and I think you can't mint them all. But as soon as you could. I'm sure some have. But unless you're a total DGen, you can't mint them all. And I loved yours, and I went and minted it right away. I don't know. There's just something kind of cool and futuristic. I know that's your style, and I just loved it as soon as I saw it. So well done on that.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that means a lot. I knew it's always interesting because I never really know what the response is going to be like to my work, right? So I post it and then kind of just see what happens. And I got a ton of good feedback, and I was like, okay. Then the step 2 is okay, I got to mint this. I can't not mint it. How do I do it? And then I was like, okay, well, it only makes sense. Why not just do $8, right? Just like the checks. So yeah, that's kind of how that went down.
Very cool. I want to talk to you about the tweet that I just pinned up where you mentioned that you'll be doing a burn, which is interesting. But one question I wanted to ask, as an artist, sort of doing this kind of a derivative of a derivative, what do you think is what makes checks resonate? Like, what made it resonate with VVD enough to do a piece? And then what made you see it and say, I could do something in my own style there as well?
Yeah, I think it's like the simplicity of it, right? I think that the idea behind checks is so simple yet genius, right? And I think we were talking about earlier, the piece with or Jack's piece where it was the JPEG and then the NFT with the verified check, and just everything that stems from that idea kind of goes right into checks, at least in my opinion. And yeah, I just think it's simple, and it's, I think, an easy access for people to make derivatives of it. I don't think it's very difficult to make a derivative of the checks. So I think all that combined, the simplicity and everything, and all that makes it fun for everybody to get involved,
Yeah, Warren and I were talking about this before the space, and we were chatting a little bit about how this is something that checks has in common with nouns, which makes it sort of fertile ground for this type of a space that bridges the gap. So I think we'll come back to that in a little bit. But I am interested that that's the answer that you gave, because that's kind of what my hunch was, that I wanted to hear from an artist, their perspective as well.
Just to
Warren,
jump in there, Tony, as well. I was just laughing to myself there because when Tommy said, it's pretty simple to make and anybody can do it. That's definitely the case, because even I, who've got no artistic capabilities whatsoever, have managed to do a Chex derivative. So I was just having a little laugh to myself about that.
I mean, that is one of the powerful things about memes, and that's kind of what I want to talk about a little later, about the similarity between Chex and nouns, which is that, it can be very easy to make art based on the meme, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to do it well. And pixel art is a great example of that, where, a lot of people can learn how to do pixel art, but then when you see really great pixel art, you know it right away. It's something that stands out. So, Warren, we just moved you up to co-host. Hopefully that didn't cause any Twitter problems. Are you there still?
I was just like not able to
yes.
hear Cardinal. I'm trying to finesse it.
Oh, shoot.
Can you hear me?
Well,
Can Cardinal? Can I hear him? Let's go. Let's go.
Can you hear him? Can you hear Cardinal?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Yeah, all good.
I feel like this is turning into like a Sprint commercial circa 1995. Can you hear me now? Did you have any questions, Warren, for Tommy, about his piece?
Well, I just love how I pinned another VV up top, which is Sun Tzu quote: "Opportunities multiply as they're seized." So kind of like starting out with that first opportunity, I think that like you know all the derivatives that have basically spawned from this stemmed from Jack's initiative to like design a platform for art, or an art platform. But I did miss a little bit of what Tommy said towards the end there. But just in general, if you just look at it and if you zoom in, it's just so well done. And I'm really interested of the 9-to-1 burn too.
Yeah, I want to hear from him about that, because I know he's got a hard stop in about 10 minutes. So I was going to finish off with Tommy telling us about that. But one thing I just wanted to say about the art and the quality of it is we've got Symbiotech up here on the stage, and you can actually see that he's using your piece as a PFP. And so I think that's a good testament to how great a piece of art it is, because it stands alone as a piece of art. Even though it is a derivative, it has its own style, it has its own sort of ambiance, but then also because it's a Pepe, it can be used as an awesome PFP. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think the best compliment I can give Tommy's piece is that, where Vincent van Gogh's derivative has positioned itself as the number one Chex derivative, I'd consider Tommy's as the next best derivative after the derivative, if that makes sense.
2 generations down. Love it. Tommy, tell us about this burn. What's going on with that?
Appreciate the kind words from everybody. That means a lot. But yeah, the burn's actually live right now. It's open for what would be another, I want to say 12 hours or something. It's a 9-to-1 burn. I wanted to have anybody who minted 10, which is I guess technically the max mint on Manifold, wanted them to be able to burn 9 and keep 1. I'm not too savvy with Twitter Spaces, so I don't know how to pin it, but
I actually did pin it earlier, so I'll just pin it again. Just give me a second.
the
one that says burn incoming here. I'm going to pin it again.
Okay, I think let me try and see if I can pin this, the actual piece for the burn.
Should be up there now.
I think I did it. Okay, there it is.
I feel like maybe Tommy can't hear me. I feel like Tommy maybe can't hear me anymore. Tommy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, we were crossing wires there for a minute. But yeah, we got it up there, so that's awesome. So there's a 9-to-1 burn. First of all, damn it, I only minted 5. But congrats to everyone who minted 10. And what does the burn get you?
So the burn gets you the piece that I just pinned to the top, which is called Burn to Relieve, which is kind of
oh wow,
there was a lot that went into it, but I was kind of playing on the idea of how many people are minting these open editions, right? And the relief of there being a burn, there needs to be a burn. I didn't think I needed to do a burn for this.
Yeah.
Just because I loved the piece. I loved the Notable Pepe piece.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make a burn piece that was kind of a play on a relief of there being a burn because, you know, floor price, FOMO, blah, 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 all that.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to make a piece about that and a piece about like burning the actual art itself. And then obviously there's the checks derivative on it, which is the fire emoji, and then the little Pepe in the corner holding the black check flag. It's a little subtle, but I don't know if you could see it in there.
I did see that. Yeah, that's really cool.
So that's the piece, and that's kind of what went into that one.
Beautiful. I love burning as a mechanic. I think it's an underused mechanic previous to 2023. So I'm kind of glad that it came into the meta because it's something that's unique to blockchain, right? So, I mean, sort of. I guess you could say something like what Banksy did is like the closest the closest IRL equivalent. You know, as he had a piece shredded as soon as it was purchased. But for the most part, you know, burning is kind of a crypto native way of being able to sort of play games with your collectors. I don't know if you would call it that. How would you put it, Warren?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like dynamics. Like in the book Skin in the Game, Talib, man, I mean, I think that so much of like with the checks right now is just like anti-fragile. Like the entire collection of Talib's works, it's like just that on steroids. Um, you know, basically, you know, n dimensions, infinite dimensions. You know, the more you understand it, the more you understand it, the more levels there are. It's like the quote, you know, the more I learn, the less I know.
Yep.
So you have a ton of dimensions. It's dynamic, meaning, you know, it's not static, it's changing. Jack's changing the metadata all the time. The participants are changing their positions, changing their minds. So it's dynamic. And it's also nonlinear, where there's an exponential components to this. You know, obviously when it started out as just a tweet with him. And then I don't even think Jack had the mint link, like minted it until after he tweeted the art. But I could ask him that. But basically, you know, it started out as a tweet, a JPEG, and now look at it. Now it's an entire cultural, you know, movement. Um,
What a rookie! Didn't Jack know that you're supposed to have it ready, have the mint ready, so that Jack can retweet it? That's how you play the game. Come on.
yeah, no, I mean, some like that's kind of like what he, you know, I think what Jack does sometimes. He just makes the art, and then he gets a response from it, and he lets that kind of like demand kind of build up, and then he'll put the mint link, and then everyone's kind of at the gates ready to go in. Um, you know, just a masterclass, man. There's so much that we could talk about, though. You know, I just want to make sure that we have the highest level conversation that we could possibly have.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I'm really happy that you were down to do this space with me because I think that we'd love to do more spaces here on TNS about, you know, projects and ecosystems that are kind of peripheral to nouns but are similar in you know, values and vision. And I think this one is what we talked about earlier before our space about that being the case. So super happy to have you here. And if people enjoy it, we can do it again next week and the week after. And yeah, let's keep at it. I know Tommy has a hard stop in 5 minutes, but maybe as a final question, we could just ask Tommy, in general, the meta of like open editions and burns, what do you think that's like? Do you think that's a good thing for collectors and for artists? Just love to get your opinion on that meta.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like such a tricky topic recently, and I think that there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. I've personally done 2 open editions, and both of the pieces were not like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, I want to do an open edition, let's make something that would do well as an open edition. It was kind of like you make the work, and then you kind of like, I always just reevaluate after I make it and think, okay, what would this do well as, or do I even need to mint this? I think overall, though, like when it's done right, it's awesome, right? I mean, I've gotten to collect from so many artists that I really wouldn't have been able to without an open edition, right? And it's never really like any open edition I've ever collected. I've never really gotten like, you know, quote unquote wrecked on or anything. Like I just collect it because I enjoy the art, and I think it's great. So overall, I think, yeah, like I said, I think there's a right way to go about it, and I think it can be super overdone as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's my thoughts. So if it's done right, I think it's an awesome thing for artists.
I love it. Well, Tommy, we appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us. You're welcome back anytime, and appreciate it. Keep making awesome art.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you guys having me, and keep up the awesome spaces and everything you guys are doing.
Amazing. And by the way, don't jump off. You don't have to. We're not booting you off, but I just know you said you might have a hard stop, so wanted to give you some leeway on that.
Yeah, I kind of got to run, but I really appreciate
Cool.
you guys having me.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tommy.
All right, guys. I'll see you.
See you, Tommy. Have a good one.
Excellent. We have Check 2336, formerly known as Ripe 0X, formerly known as Prince. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's up? What's up, man? You have just been, I mean, you're always prolific. Anyone in the Nouns ecosystem knows that you're prolific. You're always building something, but obviously, Check's got a bug in your bonnet, or bee in your bonnet, a bee in your bonnet, maybe both. And you've been doing a lot of really cool stuff. If you look at his PFP, that is an example of a noun check. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and about some of the other previous derivatives that you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. I definitely caught the checks bug. That's for sure. I think, I don't know if it was Tommy or somebody was talking earlier about kind of like just the simplicity of it and what that has in common with nouns. And, thinking more about that, in advance of this conversation, I think there's just so much overlap in creating something that is beautiful, CC0, and extremely simple. And it kind of just gives all of the creatives out there, basically us, a bunch of ingredients to play with and to remix and to apply in different ways and see what happens. And I think we've all seen how many derivatives of just the original checks artwork have come out of that. And then I don't know when the Pepe thing came out, was it Saturday or something? It was like another explosion just coming from that. So it's been incredibly inspiring and motivating and just a lot of fun. I think that's the other piece that Chex has in common with nouns is it's just fucking fun. It's a good time.
I think it was me who mentioned that earlier, Ripe, about the sort of lo-fi, the lo-fi nature of checks and pixel art in general. And maybe this is a good time for us to sort of shift into that conversation because you're pretty active in the Nouns ecosystem as well. You've done art and different projects in Nouns. Obviously got that bee and that bug and that bug and bee in your bonnet for checks. So I think you obviously are a good person to talk to about how those, what similarities those have. So when we say lo-fi, we're talking about how you can look at a pixel picture of a little pumpkin or a little toad, and you can see yourself in it because it's like there's no, the fidelity is so low, it's so low res, versus if you had like a PFP that was so realistic that it has to look like you, otherwise you can't relate to it. And so I think Chex is kind of like taking that to the extreme, where it's literally just the same image repeated over and over in a certain way, where people get inspired to use those as pixels or use them in their own art style to create something different. So why do you think that is sort of a powerful way to get people to create, right?
I think it is enabling people that may not otherwise feel comfortable kind of making something new or remixing something. The elements are simple enough that anybody can use I think somebody made a tool where you can like go and click on each grid and drop in checks and change the colors. Like anybody can literally go and do that and make your own version.
That would be IMNG. He's right behind you.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's probably me.
Such a cool tool.
We're gonna chat with him in a bit for sure. But yeah, I
but
love
it's stuff like that. It's simple. Sorry, go ahead, Tony.
No, go ahead.
It's stuff like that. It's just empowering people to poke at stuff and be creative and see what's working and what's not, and then throw it out there and see if anything gets a reaction or anything hits. And that's what's been really cool, at least from my perspective, is to just kind of like see all these other folks that may not for other projects have felt empowered to create something or do a derivative or whatever we want to call it, to just make stuff. This is simple enough, accessible enough that anybody can just jump in and play around.
Yeah, for sure. I want to pin a collection that I made with Volky, who you know well as well, and we made a collection called Check This Noun, which is interesting only because it's the inverse of what you've done. So we made nouns created by pixels that were checks, and you made a noun that is created by imagining the entire artwork of checks sort of blown up and then remade into pixels. So it's kind of interesting to see those two in contrast.
I love that collection. That one's really cool. I was thinking, whenever I put that together, the noun checks, it's pinned to my profile if anybody wants to check it out. It's also minting right now till the end of the week. I had just been thinking about like checks. I've had checks on the mind, and I'm always got nouns on my mind. I was just like, man, it'd be really cool if somehow I could, or somebody could create a noun that really captured the vibe of checks. I feel like checks has become such a movement, a phenomenon, all of that stuff, without really like being a PFP, which I think a lot of NFTs, that is part of their success. And this is just like a totally different thing. And that's something that's really exciting about it, is that I'm sure somebody's using one as a PFP, but it's generally not.
Well, there's definitely some people using your check as a PFP because there's loads in the audience, which is great to see.
Love that. Thanks, everybody. And I wanted to see if I could just, how do we take the vibe of checks and create it into a PFP? How do we have like an identity around checks? And that's kind of what I'm experimenting with too, with my ENS name, my Twitter name, how to kind of like take my check edition and put an identity behind that.
You're going to be the Punk 4156 of checks.
Yeah, exactly. Right, because he was the first one to do that with any crypto or any NFT, right?
That's right. Yeah, took the identity from his punk.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started. I went through a bunch of different iterations on how to convert, checks, or how to capture the vibe of checks in pixel art and in the noun style pixel art. And I finally landed on the one that I went with and put up as a project. And once I got to that spot, I was like, oh shit, this looks fucking good. Like, I'm stoked about this. Like, if I get excited about something that I'm making, like, I'm going to throw it out there and hopefully other people feel the same way.
So that's one of my favorite things about you as a creator, Ripe, is that you are very transparent in your process. And so I was going to mention that that's similar to what Tommy was saying, or even what Warren was saying about how Jack sort of came up with checks, is just that kind of iterative process of putting it out there and seeing what the reaction is. And I know you've done that a few times with some stuff that you've worked on within checks and sort of gauged the reaction. So I appreciate that a lot. And then, once you got something good, then you mint it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if I felt comfortable, I'd change my my PFP to the original noun check that I had created as a test before I even minted the project. And I was like, I like how this looks. Like, I want to rock this. So that, I feel like that's a good test for any project.
For sure. Warren, do you have any thoughts or questions for the artist formerly known as Ripe?
Yeah, I just remember seeing Ripe's initial Zorb checks edition, and way before it was minted, and I was just like, come on, mint this. And I think when he minted it, he like forgot a zero or something on the mint, and he was charging that heavy premium at first. Is that right? And then you like changed it after, gave everyone a refund, which mad respect to that. But yeah, I remember that. It was like one of the moments where I'm looking across like the Web3 ecosystem, like, oh, Zorbs are getting into checks, and that was way before Budweiser got into checks. That was way before anybody else started to get into checks.
Well, the CC0 community is always going to front run. The CC0 community is always going to front run the corporations. If we ever stop doing that, then we've lost the plot. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Zorbs, because that's kind of an even better sort of intersection of three different sort of CC0 projects. Zorbs being Azora NFT project. Do you want to tell a little bit about Zorbs, Ripe, and what inspired you to make that piece?
Yeah, sure. So I love Zorbs. If anybody isn't familiar with the project, definitely go check it out. Essentially, what a Zorb is, it's a sphere, but each Zorb is unique, and the color is determined by your wallet address. So if you have a Zorb, if you buy a Zorb off secondary, it will change color once it reaches your wallet. And I just think that's like, when I saw that when this Zorbs first started minting, I was like, that's the coolest fucking thing. Like, I love this idea. I want to play with this. And so what I did with Happy Zorbs, which is the Chex derivative Zorb project that I created, is, the original grid of, I actually had to cut it down because I was hitting gas limits. It's pretty gas intensive to make a unique Zorb for 80 different wallets. So I went with 48. But it's essentially a grid of Zorbs, and as each new edition of the project is minted, Zorbs get added. And so every edition is a unique set. And as more editions are created, the list grows and grows and grows. So if you look up the project, I think it's you can still access it at happyzorbs.wtf. And it's got the grid of editions there. You can see how, as each edition grows, or each edition number goes on, the artwork changes. And you can kind of like, if you were to animate that, you could see each one kind of like going up each row of the grid. And each one of those Zorbs represents an owner of the project. So
That's
they're
so cool.
each unique.
So I talked earlier about burn mechanisms maybe being the most crypto native element of these types of open edition metas, but really this is the absolute most crypto native type of mechanism, which is being able to have your piece of art as a living, breathing organism that changes according to different.
Yeah, exactly. So if you own one of these Happy Zorbs and one of the other owners that's also represented on your edition sells it or transfers it to a different wallet, their Zorb will change on your edition. So it's always going to be updating over time.
It's also kind of interesting, and I don't think it's intentional at all, but it kind of is neat that it sort of absorbs the previous seller's information and so on and so forth. I'm sure that's not intentional, because Zorbs existed before, but hey, we can write it into the lore.
Yeah, exactly. I love doing stuff on chain. It just makes things way more interesting and exciting. There's a lot of like cool variables to play with, and I think Zorbs is a great example of that. I did, the Zorgles collection also, that with Zorbs and nouns. I'm just like always combining a bunch of CC0 stuff together. But similarly, created a set of noggles that represented your own wallet and applied them to your Zorb that represented your wallet. So there's just tons of cool stuff to do around that.
So this can be maybe a very good time, Warren, for us to talk about the metadata changes that have happened with Chex, since we're talking about changing the NFT that someone bought after the fact. In the case of Ripe here, it's something that's happening automatically. In the case of Chex, it's Jack himself changing the metadata as part of the art, I would say. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that is just like a feature / bug dynamic of NFTs where, in a lot of cases, people buy an NFT thinking that they're buying the actual media file. And, so like imagine if you buy a Bored Ape and someone changes it to, the poop emoji, and I don't think that would sit right with Bored Ape.
In their defense, though, Warren, that's what was beat into their brains during 2021, 2022, is that you are buying a piece of immutable history that can never change. But of course, as you mentioned, if anyone has control over the metadata and it's not on chain, then that's not really the case. So
Exactly. So I think it's just like the exploration of, what an NFT really is. It's not an NFI. It's not a non-fungible image. It's a token. So it has everything to do with the hash and the blockchain that it's on and the type of token that it is. So just thinking about like how you have Jack right now at the helm, just kind of like changing the metadata at his discretion. It is performance art,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
uh, there's I mean, nobody's ever done it before, so we're just kind of like, the meme where it's like everyone's in the movie theater with their 3D glasses on, eating popcorn. Like that's kind of where we're at right now. And
Yeah.
but yeah, but to like contrast changing the metadata on the current edition that is like a commodity, on a visual level, every single from number one to the last check, right now it's just all subjected to that metadata change. But once the burn happens, then you know there's an on-chain original unique check set that would is unique and on-chain that can't be changed by Jack. You will be able to change it based on how you choose to burn down additions if that's the game that you want to play.
So it's like a passing over of the baton in a way. We've been controlling the metadata and what it looks like, and now you can sort of control that somewhat by, breeding your checks together essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
For anyone who hasn't been sort of up to date on it, and it's easy not to be because the metadata has changed quite frequently. Do you want to run through how many times the metadata has changed on checks and which different memes have been nodded to?
Off the top of my head, I just want to say that I think the first one was just the colorful like primary colors
Yeah,
on white, and then it went on black. He went dark mode, and
dark
then
mode.
after that, if any, I think he just changed it to a more vibrant neonish combination. And I think after that
Yeah, I
he
called
went
that one. I called that one Tropical Blast. That was one of my favorite.
tropical blast tough, and then I
Great,
think after
great.
that was the Pepe, and I think that was the first time where he kind of like took it a step further instead of just making a linear jump from different colors or maybe changing the background. He just literally just threw the VVD Pepe there, and that blew everyone's minds. And then Mona Lisa, and then the Alien Punk, and then right now he's got the Rothko version.
Yeah,
And yeah, so it's just
it's an
flip,
art
flip.
show. It's an art
It's an
show.
art show,
You
of
can't
course.
put it the other way. I loved it when he changed the Pepe because for everyone who had just minted the Pepe, it was kind of like a WTF moment when you went in. You were like, "Wait a minute, why are all my checks also Pepes?" And then, of course, Vincent Van Dough responded by changing the metadata on the Pepes to be the original checks colored checks as well. So that was kind of interesting parry between those two.
Facts, facts.
But yeah, that's been one of my favorite parts about it. I can't wait to find out what happens with the burn. Any alpha on when that burn's going to happen? Have we heard any peeps or
This month, within 10 days, 99% likely. Can't give any day. Can't,
no.
no
I
dates.
I really thought it was going to be today, because it's the 8th of the month. I just thought there would be some sort of
That was what,
symmetry there.
yep. Jack and I were discussing that like a week ago. Like, out of all the dates coming up, you look at 2/8, and obviously that one just jumps off the page in terms of if you think of the burn, 8, you 2, eat 2, you ate 2, 2 got eaten. 8, 8, 8.
Well, that's okay. We'll just wait until August 2nd. It's all good.
No, it's coming. It's coming within 10 days.
August 2nd, checks burn. You heard it here first.
I mean, no, but you'd rather like when your favorite artist is making an album, you'd rather them take the necessary time to hang out with Rick Rubin for as many days as it takes to make sure that when that album comes, it's absolutely perfect end to end. So I'm glad that a lot of people are thinking that this delay is like a bad thing or a bad signal, but
Yeah.
actually it's just Jack and Jalil, Traff, and Mouse Dev just auditing the shit out of it to make sure that they're thinking about every single possibility
Yeah,
of what could go
the thing
wrong.
is like with on-chain constructions like this, it's not easy. If you remember back to a meta that we had in 2022, would have been around August or September of last year. There was all these NFT projects that were making games like PvP games. Like you still see Wolf Game was the original, and there's all these other ones, but there's several that failed specifically because they rushed and deployed contracts that then had bugs in them. And it's not like you just made, a game for Atari where you can go in and debug it in a few minutes and push out a new release. Because once it's on chain, you literally have to redeploy to fix any problems or any bugs. So all that to say that yes, we definitely prefer that they take the time to make sure it's 100% perfect.
Super facts. And another thing is I just want to implore anybody in the audience who wants to maybe ask a question, maybe you're just learning about checks right now, which is highly improbable, but
Hey,
yeah, like let's just keep the conversation as robust as possible.
yeah, for sure. It's always a casual chat here at TNS. So if you want to come up on stage, just request. We'll pretty much bring anybody up, and we'll call on you when it's your time to speak. So I'm glad you called that out. We do have another guest with us today that we wanted to chat with a little bit before we roll things down. We have IMNG here, another really, really prolific builder, both within the Nouns ecosystem and now the Checks ecosystem. And he has created this amazing site that not only allows you to basically create checks art with a simple sort of drag and drop interface, but also to see all of the different derivatives that have been made. And he's just been curating those personally. So big shout out to NG, big flowers thrown your way. I've gone many times to the site just to scroll through all the awesome art that's been coming out of this project. So appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Tody. And
so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you first saw checks and what, similar to what I asked, right? What inspired you to create on top of this ecosystem, as it were?
First was I missed checks, basically.
Okay.
And yeah, like as many did, I was like, I saw, like, because I have minted checks artworks like the Opa Pen and, different, like, free editions and like open editions he have been doing, but I completely missed checks and actually like took my time to dive into them, like when they already were like running for like 0.2 0.3. I just looked like what is actually happening there, got interested, and I was like, okay, like, and I saw many derivatives check, like retweeting works, and I was like, okay, let me maybe make something. So I just, went through my head with different ideas, started building one thing that in the end I just discarded it and, created like greatchecks.art site where you can basically, add checks to the canvas, to the check canvas, and with like different changeable grid with different colors. I just, at some point in time, I was like, okay, it might be cool, just for people to create some checks art and stuff and launch it. It was like a hit, like, kind of instantly. And then I also went to add everyone's derivatives to the site too. And everyone was also like really, let's say like, it was also like a second hit on the side. And yeah, so that's basically how it turned out. It's site with many derivatives, like more than like 400 something artworks there right now. And
again, you've
it's
been manually adding those, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I have been. I like right now I'm just like literally sitting and writing, like, I need to find someone who will like, fill the data, because I've been doing that manually and it's just like full-time job literally, and I can't do that anymore. I need someone like who will help with that.
You need a check intern. Apply within for IMNG's check intern.
If anyone wants to like, help and like get on and like just fill the data from different links from Manifold Zora, so we can add it on the side, just send me a DM and yeah.
The only thing I want to warn about is if you're going to go to create.art/discover, which is the site that NG has made here, just make sure that you do not have your wallet on and connected. And that's not because the site is dangerous. It's because you will mint too many editions. So This is just for your own good, for your own wallet. Because if you go through and you scroll and discover, it's just crazy the amount of art that comes out of something like this. That's what I love about CC0, Warren, and I'm sure you can echo that sentiment that, you just put something out there and it's a meme and it has that sort of meme power. And all these amazing artists come out of the woodwork and they're like, oh, I can do something cool with that. And then you just get this explosion of creativity. And like, if you just go and scroll through createchecks.art/discover, I promise you it will blow your mind.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really just incredible that there's literally probably at this point over 500 derivatives and 500 meta derivatives of derivatives, and they just keep on coming. And my guy, I am, is it IMNG? Is that how you say, or I am
You can say NG. It's just
NG?
a
All
little
right, I'll
easier.
just say NG. Yeah, and what NG has done, like with that site, to be able to kind of like aggregate everything there. It's awesome. And there's another Sungwoo's coming up right now. He has an on cyber museum that is currently being built. So if
I
you
just
have
pinned
any,
I just pinned his tweet. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, yeah, that's also like absolutely great place. Just walking in a museum on cyber and just looking at all the different artworks. This is also like amazing piece.
Absolutely. Sungwoo's connecting. I'm not sure if we're having a connection issue, but hopefully he will be able to join us. I have a question, Angie. How were you able to spin this up so quickly? Because I remember you I remember you tweeting about checks, and then like a day later, you had this created. It was nuts. How did you create this so quickly? Did you sleep
Well,
that day?
there's like small secrets, you have lots of coffee, no sleep, some chocolate bars, and you just like hit the keyboard
Chocolate.
like
You
crazy.
you heard it here first, guys. That's the secret. Chocolate bars.
Yeah,
Breakfast of
so
champions.
yeah, but actually, like I have been making like checks, like my first idea was like checks tic toe, which is like tic tac toe game where you can play with a computer, and also had the idea, where you can play with a friend on the checks canvas, so like online. And I basically took some days to build um, this like canvas where you can add pieces. And just one moment I was like, okay, it might be actually more helpful and interesting if I just give people the ability to create checks art, like just canvas, you can add checks of different colors. And and that was a hit, so I just basically like copy pasted code and just boom, launched. But
Well,
yeah, also no sleep, coffee, and
I can say I created a few different checks derivatives early on before your site, and created them in Photoshop with lots of meticulous copying and pasting. And I really wish I had had access to your site at the time. Would have made my life a lot easier, but that's okay. We learn by hardship, correct? So
absolutely. Now we have it.
now we have it. We do have Sungwoo now with us. Sungwoo, rocking the noun check also. The check noun. Sorry. What did you want to tell us about?
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for the shout out. I was gonna ask myself, but NG, thanks for bringing it up. I actually have to jump on the 2 p.m. call, so I'll just make this quick. Please check out the museum if you can. It's great. There's so many creators have helped to populate that space. And as mentioned earlier, like just seeing that the works in a 3D space is a different experience. And I hope it's something that becomes more commonplace throughout any projects for the nouns. Actually, throwback. I actually did one project on the noun prop house with a friend earlier called Nounitecture. We were trying to develop 3D houses based on the noggles. But so maybe we'll get back to that based on the success of the Museum of Checks. But one more note. I'm actually thinking about creating a new space just based on we have like over 500 derivative check works now, and I think maybe it's more productive if I just share like an open curator link on Twitter so that anyone can just join and just populate the second museum with whatever derivative works that they want to share with everyone else. So I'll have that up.
Oh, that'd be really
Yeah,
cool.
so I'll have that up in the coming this week, probably later down. So please be on the lookout, and thank you everyone for this has been so much fun. Yeah, that's all.
Amazing. So everybody give Sungwoo a follow so that he can give you the information about that. While you're at it, please follow NG and Ripe up here, awesome creators. I'm sure you're all following Tommy Wilson as well, but if you're not, make sure you go track him down too. And give us a follow too here on the Noun Square. We do about 40 spaces a week on all things nouns and CC0. So if this kind of stuff is your jam, you'll probably get some interesting content and enjoy what we do here. We also do a daily spaces at Noun O'Clock, which is basically the time when the Nouns DAO auction changes over to a new noun. So we actually get together, we play this little game that helps us choose the new noun. It's fun, moves a little bit every day. Currently, it's a little early for the EST cohort. It's about 6 a.m. But we do have Zeneca coming on tomorrow. Pretty cool guests. Shout out Cardno for hooking that up. So Zeneca is going to be joining us tomorrow. So if you do happen to be up early in the morning tomorrow, 6 a.m. at EST, we will be joined by Zeneca, and we'll play that game that I talked about, and you'll get a good intro to nouns by joining us. Warren, do you want to give
Jody, when are you
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
set up a show for the checks metadata updates?
the checks metadata updates? Like
Whoa!
that'd be a
This
good.
is the first. This is the first episode.
Yeah, this is the first one. Are you saying
do-
it should
I-
be checks o'clock? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
I,
it's hard enough to do a show every day, which we've done now for 235 days. We've done a show every single day. So kudos to our team here. But the crazy thing about 9 o'clock is because of settlement times on the auction, it actually moves a little bit every day. So we started doing this at 6 p.m. EST back in June of last year. And we've gone all the way around the clock twice to now 6 a.m. EST. So it's been a bit crazy. It's kind of hard running a show when you're talking to your guest about coming on next week. And Cardno knows too well about this because he's one of the guys that does our guest booking. And they're like, well, what time is it going to be? And it's like, about that. Well, it kind of depends on settlement times. It'll be sometime between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. We'll let you know. So it's tricky. But the thought of doing a space whenever Jack decides to change the metadata, yeah, there's a new challenge for us.
Keeps you on your toes.
Checks FOMO, like community voting on what metadata update will be next.
Oh yeah,
play.
that's a good idea. Yeah. Well, Ripe, I just want to say I appreciate you volunteering to host that, and I will be in touch to give you the credentials to the Twitter, and you can have a
Deal.
Warren, thank you so much for joining us today. This was super fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Can you give anyone who's listening just a quick rundown on the network state and what you guys are doing?
Well, the first thing that I want to say is the network state and the noun square are the exact same acronym, so there might be an opportunity there.
Oh, I didn't even notice that or realize
Nice.
that.
Hashtag TNS.
TNS, that's
Hashtag
TNS.
which one? On some
Hashtag,
Life of Pablo.
hashtag confuse everybody.
Life of Pablo. Which one? Network state or the noun square? Both. Neither. We're in the quantum era. But no, for the network state, basically, the goal of network state, 2Vs, is to become a fully functional, diplomatically recognized network state. Can't guarantee that happens this year, next year, or this decade, but that's the ultimate prerogative. And, I'm kind of working backwards from that goal. So, like the initial layer 0 of achieving that, the first things first is just getting on the same page with people who have similar values, similar visions, similar everything except ideas and talents, because that's where the diversity really comes in, and the combinatorics of different talents and different viewpoints and worldviews, etc. just creates this ultimate beast when the whole is far greater than the sum of the parts. So it's trustless permission. Well, not trustless. There's it's a lot of trust. I think that that's another thing in this the paradox of trustlessness is like the only way to achieve trustlessness is to have like smart contracts and code that is totally trustworthy. So it's just about like starting or organic growth. I mean, the visualized value community, which I think there's at least 5 people in here that have been in the VV ecosystem for a few years now. Like, we're like kind of on the same page, but it's time to kind of branch out and enlist some individuals that would be interested in forming a network state. And without rambling too much, um, it's like
The only thing
there's
that I
a
would maybe
tweet. I'm
ask,
trying to pin tweets. I'm trying to pin tweets and stuff and fit this in really quick. Yeah, but go. Do you have a question?
yeah, the only thing I would say maybe it might be good to clarify if there's anyone listening now or listening back who doesn't even know what a network state is, because I don't think it's in everyone's verbiage or vocabulary. What is a network state in like the simplest way of describing it?
A network state is a collective of individuals that leverage cryptocurrency or just currency, but particularly crypto, land, communication systems, protocols of like governing. Like there's a founder, there's leaders. It doesn't have to be one founder, but it's like it has all these components that in concert, uh, create this organization that hasn't necessarily existed up to this point. I mean, you could consider that every single nation state, like the United States of America, has the qualities of a network state, but the only difference is a network state is not bound by or confined by borders. It's international, it's global, and um, yeah, I mean, Balaji, go to the networkstate.com, which Balaji published his book on there, and it's totally free to read. Um, I'm trying to pin like 5 tweets right now, but if you guys could DM, Network State DMs are open, and the Network State is an entity that, like, even though like I'm the admin of it, like I really want it to kind of exist independent for me and be able to run, like, if I got, if I vanished from the earth, like right now, like I it's set up to have like to be anti-fragile in that sense. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot of ideas here, and it's just, instead of like explaining, it's just like, if you're interested in this, go check out Balaji's page, check out his book. He just started the Network State podcast yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Vitalik is the first guest, and um, I'm just gonna pin a couple things. So if anyone has any questions in the meantime, while I'm looking for these tweets, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, if anyone has a question or anything they want to share as we wind down here, just raise your hand or ask to come up on stage by using the little icon on the bottom left there. In the meantime, we'll start winding down. But if we see someone come up, we'll definitely call on them. Ripe, want to thank you for your time. Appreciate you joining us. I think XOA, you wanted to chat a little bit about something you made. Go for it. XO, are you there?
GM, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah, GM checks nouns. How are you doing?
We are doing good. We've had a pretty good checkup today, I think.
Yeah, it definitely checks out. Fantastic space. Thank you so much for hosting it. Some fantastic artists and speakers, and yeah, really enjoyed every single sort of story, and like especially Tommy's art was like just amazing, pretty lit to if no pun intended, but yeah, it's sick.
I thought I don't know
think...
if it was lit. It was fire though, but yeah.
and the pun definitely was intended there. So
yeah, exactly. You're not fooling anybody here, X.
That checks out as well. So I guess like I'm an artist myself, and I've been like so inspired by every single artist, not just Jack and all the big artists, but also like just friends and people who created derivatives, and like the nouns checks is pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna mint one. The Happy Zora, that's I just saw that. I want to mint one of those as well. So yeah, shout out to 2336 or Ripe 0x. Yeah, he amazing artist. So that kind of inspired me as well. I launched my like little interpretation of a skull check about a day or so ago. Yeah, like I'm obsessed with skulls, as you can tell. Yeah, this is actually this PFP. I minted a game token, which was like a 2019 project called Crypto Skulls. And that game has been like ongoing for a while. And yeah, it's a really cool project. I'm a community manager. The DAO voted me for it, and yeah, it's just such a cool community, and it kind of Nouns gives me the same kind of vibes, and that's kind of why I tune in almost every other day at least, and try to hang out with you guys and learn from you. It's such a cool space, the CCO meta, and like what you said earlier about like the future of the space, like how it could empower artists and derivatives. That's why I kind of like I was inspired and I want to create stuff. Hopefully that some of my my pieces will go into the Museum of Checks as well. That's an awesome community. I think like I just think it's like a highlights the narrative of empowering artists to create whatever they want, and then the fact that you could because there's so many PFPs and there's so much IP out there and communities that we can all come together and like create stuff that we want to create. Like we belong to a certain community, or so everyone like relates to Nouns, everyone relates to skulls or punks, right? So it's really about like how do I give back to the community? How do I like try to create a sense of belonging, loyalty? So that's kind of why I created minted it just for my sake. I really wanted a skull like with some checks on, but now I'm actually creating every day. I'm like thinking of new ideas, and I've got a few pieces of art that is in the works. So the one that I kind of worked on, I'll pin it up like shortly. But yeah, happy to answer any questions. But yeah, just really inspired by that whole narrative. But the last thing I would say is that Crypto Skulls to me is bigger than just a PFP project. To me, it's like like I joined as a community member, right? I come from a pretty humble background. I'm just an artist and designer, right? But that was my onboarding. I learned a lot from Web3, and I met so many friends, and so like to me it's like it's bigger than that. It's because it's about education and about learning about the blockchain and learning about Web3 and the possibilities that it enables, and the fact that I was able to really like just dive in as a community member, learn, and then get voted in as a team member. That's like an honor as well. But more than that, like to me, it's like the bigger community, which is like the aspect of educating about the significance of provenance. I'm a big fan of CryptoPunks and Nouns, because it's like it's a culture, right? It's a movement, and I think the earlier NFTs as well, especially. I think the historical narrative of like CryptoPunks and how it changed culture, and Web3 as a whole. I think that's like, to me, that's really interesting, and therefore, I think that's kind of like what I'm trying to build towards, in the next few years, is like, what can I do, or what can I create? Like, we built a museum. We worked with 25 different projects called Historical NFT Museum. But yeah, I'm not here to show. I'm just here to like explain the narrative and why I created a piece that was called Skull Checks, because to me it speaks to me, right? It's like the birth of crypto skulls, the birth of like the rediscovery actually of historical NFTs, which then everyone was like, oh, like what can I collect? From like 2019 and earlier back to 2011. There's so many different amazing founders and projects that I didn't know about. So yeah, just super interesting. And every day I'm like discovering and learning new projects that that the OGs pioneered. So yeah, like this is a really cool meta, like a really interesting like a technological sort of innovation, and it's different. It's different to the PFPs and like everything that's going on. So yeah, I'm just excited to learn. So but yeah, thanks so much for having me.
For sure, I think someone needs to create a project that's like called Metaception or something, and it has like elements from all the different metas that we have had in NFTs. It can be like, historical NFTs in a 10,000K or 10K PFP that is an open edition that's burnable, and then you can play it as a PvP with your friends. Does that sound good to everybody? We'll cover off all the metas all in one project. I appreciate you sharing a little bit, X, about what you've done and about Crypto Skulls, and thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thanks so much. I love what you said. We should definitely do that. If you need me to help you out with that, let me know. I love your ideas every day. So yeah, thanks so much.
I should start minting them on Zora and telling people to do them because I don't have time for that.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I'm so impressed. Like, how do you have so much time to do so many spaces? It's like, do you even sleep?
Sometimes we sleep. Well, the truth is that the way we do things at the Noun Square is with a really dedicated team of people, and not everybody works like crazy hours every day, but we kind of rotate in and out, and we do, all of our rewards we do on retro basis every 2 weeks. So it's kind of a novel sort of experiment in decentralized teams and comp, and that's one of the things that allows us to do this every single day, because I think a single person, whether it's me or anyone else, would get burned out just trying to do this every day. So it kind of allows us to lean here and there and just comp people appropriately for the effort that ends up getting put in. So that's the long answer to the short question.
Yeah, that checks out. I was just checking you're not ChatGPT or someone.
Not ChatGPT. I mean, I won't lie. When I really hate when 9 o'clock is at this time. I didn't mind it when it was in the middle of the night because you could just kind of stay up late, sleep late. But right now, it's just kind of terrible because you can't. If you're a night owl like me, you can't really go to bed before midnight, and then you're up by 5 and you're doing the show, and then you got to take a nap, and then it just messes your whole day up. So please come join us tonight on FOMO. We need to FOMO for a while, like a half an hour. Move this thing forward. FOMO is the game we play every night to choose the new noun, and it can take a while, and that's one of the ways we can move it forward. So we're really looking to move this forward into something that's not 6 a.m. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. See you tonight. See you tomorrow morning.
Real quick, do you have a second?
Yeah, for sure. I was just joking.
We got Symbiotech with the hand raise, and in real time, Coinbase just tweeted their edition of checks.
No way.
Humanity through. I pinned it up top. It's one to the right.
I've just seen.
Or no, Cardinal did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we witnessed that in real time. We were here for that. So
that is really cool.
That ties right in. I had my hand raised. Warren, if you can speak to the humanity checks. I was pretty to see that. I see for 10,000 so far. How long it might be open, and yeah, if you just speak to it a little bit.
So Jack, initially got into like NFT drives, for disaster relief, philanthropy, etc. back in 2021 for Afghanistan, and then COVID in India, Ukraine, just general hunger. So this is like his 5th or 6th, edition that all the funds get directly routed to the giving block, which, from my understanding, like they're very low fee and they, try to allocate funds as best as possible. And there's a really good Not Investment Advice podcast that Jack and Trung Fan and Bilal Zaidi do, from maybe like a year or 2 years ago. Actually, September 2021, they did an episode where they were just talking about like how the world of philanthropy is kind of opaque, and like up until this point, like there really hasn't been a way of like 100% transparently like proving proof of funds, like proving how funds are allocated. So he just did this for the Turkey and Syria earthquake relief, and yeah, like it's really just unbelievable. There's no limit, people for the hunger for the plates edition that, for every NFT you purchase, it's, feeds 100 people or, 100 meals. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So like people were actually, commenting at Jack saying, yo, like, close this, like, let's keep the supply low. But Jack's like, no.
Hunger is not a flywheel. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, I think that this is also a new meta. Is like we're living in this era of ESG, social virtue signaling and all that stuff, of like, like who's more moral, like look at how moral this look at Apple, man. They put like a little thing in the blah 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 blah, like it's you got slave labor going on in China. It's like, like it's like it's just like it's time to like for the tide to go down, and we could really see who's swimming naked in terms of like BlackRock, ESG bullshit. It's just all bullshit, man. It's just so
Yeah,
like
I
I
feel like
really
this
think,
could be a
yeah.
topic, could and should be a topic for another space, because you're right.
This needs to be like let's just say we're like 1% loading on this topic, or like the meta of using NFTs to direct funds to those who need it the most. Because right now in planet Earth, like we're so fortunate to be here on Twitter. Just like we're the lucky ones, we're the fortunate ones. There's billions of people who are locked out of this opportunity that we currently have. So like us being able to realize that and do something about it, instead of just like being, like that's why like I'm vehemently like I can't take any projects that don't at the core have this mission. Like an example, I'll throw some shade or smoke at Yuga Labs. Like, what are they doing for humanity besides trying to grow the swamp? They call it the swamp, the other side. Let's get real. Let's get honest. Let's be adults, and let's grow up from this from this vanity phase of NFTs, and let's focus on the technology and the applications that help the most people without being like facade, like, or like this, like it's just time to call out all the bullshit in this entire space and end the bear market. And maybe the at the top of the charts on OpenSea will be an edition that raises money for Taiwan or Syria or Africa. I'm sick of all the bullshit in the space. So let's
Amen.
just get real.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And I
why?
think you're right about. Actually, I'm glad NG's piping up, because NG did some explorations, and so did some other projects last year, in helping Ukraine with the conflict and the war that's going on there. So NG, I don't know if that's what you were going to speak on, but
Yeah, I just this is actually like really strange that people like, why do we even need to sell like open edition or stuff like to raise money to help like everyone in the world? Because I mean, I live in Ukraine and I have seen like many shit of like people living in a like children living in basements for months without seeing the light and stuff. Uh, and that's just one part of the world, and there's like huge play, like so many people in the world living just absolutely um like absolutely bad, like
Mhm. I
sorry,
understand what you're.
I don't know how to
I
say it,
understand
but
what you're saying, is that maybe it seems like an unnecessary intermediary to give to people who need help. But what I would counter is that, things like this, they convert virtue signaling into virtue, because it doesn't matter why someone buys the NFT, but it still goes to help those people that need help. And so maybe those people would have never sent a direct Bitcoin transfer to the Ukrainian government to help them, but they might buy this NFT that might do the same. So I think it can be a powerful way to mobilize people and help them to care, because apathy is probably the biggest problem.
yeah, absolutely. And the main thing I wanted to say that, you don't need to buy NFT to help people. And like, if you can just, just simply send a transaction, and it's actually gonna cost less for you, rather than just buying an NFT. So,
Yeah,
if
whatever
you
way you
if
do it,
you're
I think it's valid for sure. And I
yeah.
think you touched on a point that I was going to mention when Warren was speaking there too, about how last year during this war, when the Ukrainian government literally like tweeted out their Ethereum and Bitcoin addresses, saw that as like a huge turning point for humanitarian aid, because it's like the first time that a government like literally said, we don't have access to our banking, or we don't know if we'll have access to our banking, and they kind of turned to crypto to fix the problem. I thought that was really interesting. So
Yeah, like
Andrew's right. I mean, the ETH address is out there, so if you want to help Ukraine, you can do so by sending ETH directly to them.
Yeah, in Turkey and many people like in Africa, some like Asian countries, South America, there's like lots of people living in absolute like terrible places.
Mm-hmm.
And like you don't need like any more like open edition. It's nice. And if there's great art like you want to buy and it goes to the good cause, definitely do that. But like you can do that even without buying like NFT open edition, whatever. You just can send some, this $8 or $10, 20, like any sum really like helps those people who like really, really fucking need it.
Good point. Good point. Thanks for sharing, Angie, from your perspective. Warren, again, really appreciate this space. Let's do it again. It was really fun. As we close out, just want to go quickly through the schedule of what we have coming up here on TNS over the next 24 hours. At 3 p.m., so in just 40 minutes, actually, recommend that you go get some lunch and come back because it's going to be a pretty good space with Amber Vittoria. Not sure if you guys are familiar with her, but she's an amazing artist. And she is actually releasing her first CC0 piece today, and she's doing it live on the Noun Square. It's going to be a timed edition, and it's going to be launched at 3 p.m. EST while she's here with us. So that'll be pretty fun. We've also got David Horvath joining us to give us some thoughts on CC0. If you don't know him, you definitely want to come and hear from him. He's the pioneer of CC0 art and NFTs. He created a collection called Uma No Copyright in the summer of 2021. So even before Nouns, he was the first CC0 NFT to ever be released, and he has some really awesome thoughts on that, especially as it juxtaposes with his history of being a creator in the very much copyright non-free zone of Disney and Nickelodeon and a lot of these other big corporations that he's created under. So he's going to come give some thoughts on CC0. Amber's going to talk about why she decided to make this CC0 and should be a good time. At 5 p.m. EST, so in just under 2.5 hours, we've got a public town hall about House of Nouns. House of Nouns is a project within Nouns that is creating infrastructure that helps voters to make good decisions, informed decisions. They have a proposal up on nouns.wtf right now, and they're doing a public Q&A at 5 p.m. for any Nouners, delegates, or community members that may have questions for them. And then at 7 p.m., we have Nouns DAO Amigos in Espanol, a Spanish space all about what's going on in the Nouns DAO community in Latin America and Spanish-speaking countries. At 8 p.m., we have Food Noun O'Clock. There is a sub-DAO of Nouns called Food Nouns that talks all about food security and food service and all kinds of awesome things like that. And they have a show weekly here on Noun Square called Food Noun O'Clock, and that is at 8 p.m. tonight. And then finally, at 9:30 p.m. EST, we have the Daily Drop with That's Gnarly. NARS is another sub-DAO of Nouns that concentrates on enabling extreme athletes, basically, and sponsoring extreme athletes in a nounish way. And they have a platform that basically allows skaters and snowboarders and extreme athletes to basically mint clips of them doing tricks on a daily basis as open editions. And they do a little space at 9:30 to talk about the new daily mint that's coming out. So that's what's going on the rest of the day today. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have Zeneca joining us tomorrow morning. We are going to be back here at 6 a.m. EST tomorrow. I know it's early, but if you happen to be up, come join us. So we're going to be chatting about everything Zen Academy, etc. Always great conversation with that guy. And of course, every day on 9 o'clock live, we choose the next noun that will be up for auction. So that's pretty fun as well. If you're joining us here for the first time and you've never been at TNS, please give us a follow here on the clock. As you just heard, we do lots of awesome spaces throughout the day. So if you like CC0 and you like nouns, interests you, give us a follow, and hopefully you'll find some interesting stuff in our spaces. And Warren, give Warren a follow here too at the Art of Warren, and check out the Network State. Lots of cool stuff going there. And hopefully, I think this was pretty good. Maybe we'll do it again next week. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, like it's always about like opportunity cost and how can we make the best use of our time. And I think that like I know that anyone who's like got noggles associated with their profile or their PFP or anything, they're in the know and in terms of like where to go. I just want to say one thing. I pinned at the top. There's this dude out in Syria who I found because I was looking to try to find like Jack's old posts about his philanthropic project.
Yep.
And this guy was like trying to reach out to him, tagging him, like, please help, please help. Basically begging for help for him and his three kids, if you look at this photo that, he actually minted as an NFT on OpenSea, um, like it just gives me the chills because it's like, there's this kid who's just looking backwards and then everyone else is facing the other way. There's rubble everywhere. There's like a comic book on the ground. It's just a total, scene of total devastation,
Yeah.
with a story kind of attached. But I think the point is like, like Jack's able to raise money through the Giving Block, which is like macro efforts, Red Cross, but this guy's, like on the ground, posting. If you actually go to his profile at Poor Webs, like he's posting videos of the squalor that they're like currently living in and stuff. So I think it's just like, if more people could actually have direct exposure to like the first person view of like what the conditions of living are in these places, it's like, I think that would kind of like move the needle. I mean, this is not going to happen overnight. We're not going to be able to get people to like start shitting on Lamborghinis and donating money to Syria overnight. But in terms of moving the needle, I think that like collectively, like if as long as like we're on like vectors going in the same direction, we're going to be able to kind of shift the paradigm out of this consumer, this conspicuous consumption paradigm of free money and actually like reevaluate, everything basically. So I just want to say thank you, Toady Hawk, for hosting this and the whole non-square. Follow everybody, follow everyone who's in this room. We're obviously all kind of on this same page. Let's just make sure that we're continuing to communicate at a high level and sharing and just keep going. Thank you.
TNS and TNS. It started here.
TNS x TNS. Just wait on it.
Let's go.
TNS might eat ESPN or BBC or whatever. TNS.
I mean, you heard it here first. TNS squared. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'll play you out with a fun little Nogley song, and we'll see you at the next show. Give us some emojis if you had a good time. Price of admission, 1 emoji.
It's a Naruto song. It's that new sound. Put your hands up and never put them down. What are Noggles? The goggles that are nounish. Square, frame, black, and